When our little girl was born, we got a Subaru.
No.
It's where she said her first word.
No.
Saw her first day of school.
Bye-bye.
Made a best friend forever.
Oh my God.
The back seat of my Subaru is where she grew up.
What?
The 2015 Subaru Forester.
What?
Built to be there for your family. Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
University Subaru.
The wise choice!
Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends. This is Wednesday. It's January the 21st, and Bill Wickersham is with us today. You know, he's the UFO guy. That's what people
Just
call you
don't call
now.
me a buff. That's what.
Right, UFO guy. And happy birthday to you. 2 weeks ago, you turned 81 years young.
Correctamente.
Yeah, congratulations to you, Bill. You have been interested in UFOs, unidentified flying objects, for many, many years.
About 50, probably.
Yeah. You've written so many columns that have been published in both the Trib and the Missourian. You come on Radio Friends and talk about it. You've got 3 different topics that you wanted to touch on today. The first thing was a symposium at the NASA Library.
That's right.
Back last year.
It was September 18, 19, 2014, and it was a 2-day seminar put on by the Library of Congress and NASA on the whole. It was an astrobiology symposium aimed at the question, what happens when ET is in fact discovered and is disclosed? What are the implications, the impact? And of course, those of us...
They're not saying what happens if, they're saying what happens when.
Well, the way they couch this, there's none of the 20 scholars that met, I think, was willing to take on the UFO issue or the ET presence. They're saying when it happens. Folks like me are saying, and Edgar Mitchell, and I can give you a list of 400 people who are well schooled in this, who will tell you it's already happened.
Okay.
So that was it, but it was still a good thing to do, to ask the basic questions.
Now, Edgar Mitchell, we've talked about him several times. Edgar Mitchell was an Apollo 14 astronaut with NASA, and he's pretty outspoken on this subject.
About as outspoken as you can get.
My question to you is, how does Edgar Mitchell, who was the Apollo 14 astronaut,
Apollo 14.
how does he come off being able to speak his mind when most of the government is so closed-lipped about everything?
Well, I'm sure Edgar Mitchell's clever enough to not address anything. He has historically probably not violated non-disclosure agreements, but he grew up in Roswell, New Mexico. That's where he grew up. And so he knows many of the people. There are at least 300 people who have been eyewitnesses, not eyewitnesses, but witnesses of some sort to the crash at Roswell. And so he deals a lot of it in that way. But he's also a philosopher. I mean, his doctorate is in science from MIT, but he's looking at cosmology, the larger scheme of things, and saying, what does this mean? We know, he says 100% the ETs have been with us. And we know CIA folks and others who said the same thing. And so he's looking 100, maybe 10,000 years down the road.
But when you have somebody with the credentials of an Apollo astronaut, like Edgar Mitchell, coming out and saying the things that he has said, it adds legitimacy to the topic.
Well, and it helps little guys like me who've been laboring in the vineyard, but are not very well known. Well, what happened is, I think I showed you that Edgar Mitchell signed on to a letter with 3 others of us regarding this symposium of which you speak, in which we pointed out that if you really want to deal with the issue properly, you have to have at least one program on UFOs. What they did, according to us, it's a little bit like taking your kids to Disneyland and just showing them the parking lot. In other words, the scope was so narrow. And we're glad they did it. It was a good thing, but we had hoped that this would go viral, that this letter online. It has not, and I think it has to do in part with the way the subject is put forward.
Okay. Well, before we run out of time, I want you to touch on an incident that occurred on WW here in Columbia back in 1973. What was that?
I was at a Christmas party recently, and a man who lives there actually got 55 pages of documentation from a young woman, she and her father, who experienced the landing of a UFO near about 1,000 feet from Highway WW. It's out near the American Legion post, not far.
Now, why have we not heard about this before?
We've heard about it. As I say, I have the documentation. I have Missourian articles. I have Tribune articles. I have the original interview. And by the way, J. Allen Hynek, the Air Force's top guy, after he left Project Blue Book, started his own center, the Center for UFO Studies. It was his people that came and interviewed, and he came here on July 14th.
Are the people who witnessed this still alive today?
You know, I don't know. Mr. Richards would be about my age if he was 41 at the time, and his daughter, my friend Peter Neenan is the guy who gave me the materials.
Yeah.
And do you know Peter?
No.
No. At any rate, he got them from Vanea, the young girl.
So this
years
was in
later.
1973,
Right.
and I'm sure if people are interested in this, you could go to the archives of the
Let me give it
Trib.
to you right here.
Okay.
You know, the best place to go is to simply Google Columbia, Missouri UFO 1973. Let me say that again. Columbia, Missouri UFO 1973, and you will get an overview summary, which is really quite
of the
good.
Trib articles, Missourian articles, and
everything. Really, it's an overview of the interview and those articles.
yeah. I remember talking. I'm not going to tell the person's name because it's a very respected person, and this doesn't make him less respectable. But I don't have his permission to give his name. But he was telling me a story, and I think it was at 1973, that he remembers looking up in the sky and seeing an object go through the night sky. Mm-hmm. And this was someone that I had worked with and is very reputable.
Well, this UFO knocked down trees. There were actually imprints on the ground. The long-distance operator, the exchange operator, FAA was brought involved. Police came out. The young policeman who saw it that night didn't really believe it.
Okay, but a lot of people don't.
But the next day they got it cleared up.
Go to Google Columbia, Missouri UFO 1973, and you'll have all the details.
That's right.
Bill Wickersham, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming by, and Happy New Year and belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Okay, our program directed by Travis McMillen, Reynolds Journalism Institute. Audio is Pat Akers from KBIA. Our floor director, Lowell Thomas, and our assistant producer and guest coordinator, Uncle James Mauser. Something you'd like to hear or see, I'd love to hear from you. Drop me an email, pepperp@missouri.edu. Have yourself a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.